المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم مما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أن حملنا ذرية في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله وأطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في السور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لتمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمر نكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سورة الفاتحة.
Is Ghulam here? Okay, you can give donation and come back. It's okay. I'll take that money. Are they? Okay, got one more minute, yeah. Stand right here. You start, huh?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا ولي الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما
Let's fill up the gaps in the front, please. There are so many gaps over there.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله هيا على الصلاة هيا على الفلاح هيا على خير العمل هيا على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله استغفر الله أسأله التوبة يا لطيف يا كريم الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك الرحمة إنك أنت الوهاب وصلى الله على محمد وآل الطيبين الطاهرين الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمد الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين الله أكبر بسم الله وبالله والحمد لله وخير الأسماء لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر اللهم صل على
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه اللهم إني أسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والنجاة من النار ومن كل بلية والفوز بالجنة والرضوان في دار السلام وجوار نبيك محمد عليه وآله السلام اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله هيا على الصلاة هيا على الصلاة هيا على الفلاح هيا على الفلاح هيا على خير العمل هيا على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله استغفر الله وأسأله التوبة الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانهر إن شانئك هو الأبتر الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمد الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلبي على دينك إلهي آملنا بفضلك ولا تعاملنا بعدلك يا قريب بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله الله أكبر سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمدي ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. يا ولي العافية نسألك العافية، عافية الدين والدنيا والآخرة يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على محمد وآل الطيبين الطاهرين. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله والحمد لله وخير الأسماء لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله.
استغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إنه ليس لي علم بموضع رزقي وإنما أطلبه بخطرات تخطر على قلبي فأجول في طلبه البلدان فأنا فيما أنا طالب كالحيران لا أدري أفي سهل هو أم في جبل أم في أرض أم في سماء أم في بر أم في بحر وعلى يدي من قبل من وقد علمت أن علمه عندك وأسبابه بيدك وأنت الذي تقسمه بلطفك وتسببه برحمتك. اللهم فصل على محمد وآله واجعل يا رب رزقك لي واسعا ومطلبه سهلا وما أخذه قريبا ولا تعنني بطلب ما لم تقدر لي فيه رزقا فإنك غني عن عذابي وأنا فقير إلى رحمتك فصل على محمد وآله وجد على عبدك بفضلك إنك ذو فضل عظيم
محمد.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء عيسى نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي السلام عليك يا حجة الله من حسن يا سعد بن الزمان سيدي الأمان 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 السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان ورحمة الله وبركاته.
बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलवात। एक मिनट है।
Salawat. Oh Hussein, you live forever in our hearts and in our minds. Oh Hussein, you live forever in our hearts and in our minds. I swear to Allah, until my last breath, I will remember Hussein. Oh Hussein, you live forever in our hearts and in our mind. I swear to Allah, you have shown us so much courage through the pain. You sacrificed your family and were killed thirsty. You gave it all, Hussein. You gave everything for Allah. Never did you complain. I swear to Allah, until my last breath, I will remember Hussein. Oh Hussein, you live forever in our hearts and in our mind. Oh Hussein, you live forever in our hearts and in our minds. I swear to Allah, until my last breath, I will remember Hussein. Oh Hussein, you live forever in our hearts and in our minds. I swear to Allah, whenever I face troubles in my life, I close my eyes and see your shrine and call labbaik every time. Oh Hussein, you are the love of my heart. You are the light of my eyes. I swear to Allah, until my last breath, I will remember Hussein. Oh Hussein, you live forever in our hearts and in our mind. Oh Hussein, you live forever in our hearts and in our mind. I swear to Allah, until my last breath, I will remember Hussein. Oh Hussein, you live forever in our hearts and in our minds. Salawat.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. I have a short poem. It's a 2-minute poem. But before that, my young daughter, Maryam Fatima, has been practicing her new surah. So hopefully she's planning to recite that. Muhammad, salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم مثل الذين هم التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الماء يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين قل يا أيها الذين آمنوا هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما كتبت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم كنتم تعملون فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا فضل الله واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائما قل ما عند الله خير من الله ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد. I know it's not Friday today, but that was Surah Jummah. But Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. In the sands of Karbala, where courage and faith entwine. In the sands of Karbala, where courage and faith entwine, stood Ali Akbar, a beacon amidst the strife's design. With the noble lineage of Ali and Fatima's grace, his presence brought solace in that desolate place. Youthful yet resolute. Youthful yet resolute, his spirit undeterred. A symbol of valor where true banners soared, as battles uproared and hearts weighed with woe. Ali Akbar's resolve, like a river, did flow. A bond of a father and son through the tempest haze. To his father, Imam Hussein, he turned with loving gaze. To his father, Imam Hussein, he turned with loving gaze. Baba, Baba, see my devotion unwavering and true. I shall confront this tyranny for faith and for you. With a sword in hand and righteousness at his guide, he rode forth to the field. He rode forth to the field where fate would decide. In the heart of battle amidst the clash and roar, Ali Akbar fought bravely, his essence pure and sure. But the enemy's arrows, relentless in their flight, found their mark upon him in the fading light. As he fell upon the sands, wounded and frail, as he fell upon the sands, wounded and frail, echoes of grief and anguish filled the sorrowing tale. Imam Hussein rushed to him. Imam Hussein rushed to him, cradling his dying son, a heart-rending moment when hope seemed undone. Father, forgive me, Ali Akbar softly sighed. Father, forgive me for leaving you in anguish as fate has applied. In his final breaths, he spoke of paradise embrace. In his final breaths, he spoke of paradise embrace, a martyr's reward in God's mercy and grace. Ali Akbar's sacrifice. Ali Akbar's sacrifice in Karbala's dire hour resounds through ages, a testament of power. O Ali Akbar, your valor and devotions shine in the annals of history and eternal sign. Your courage inspires in hearts that hold your tale in the saga of Ashura, where faith shall prevail. So brothers and sisters, So brothers and sisters, before it's too late, for when the Mahdi reappears, he will look to you and I for some volunteers. Are we ready to be the pioneers? Are we ready to be the pioneers? Let us shake away our desires before our time expires. The Mahdi waits for all of us not to be the one to make his plan backfire. Muhammad salawat.
بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اکبر کے کلیجے سے کوئی برچی نکالے، 18 برس والے کو اللہ سنبھالے، غم اپنا جوالال کا اے بھولنے والے، غم اپنا جوالال کا اے بھولنے والے، خون بہتا ہوا زخم ہے دامن میں چھپا لے، مادخ جلی ہے دیوری پہ، سر پیٹ رہی ہے، مادخ جلی ہے دیوری پہ، سر پیٹ رہی ہے، اکبر تیری اماں کا جگر کون سنبھالے، لاتے ہیں ضعیفی میں جواں بیٹے کا لاشا، لاتے ہیں ضعیفی میں جواں بیٹے کا لاشا، اے موت ذرا بر کے کلیجے سے لگا لے، زینب کے لیے سخت ہے یہ صبر کی منزل، زینب کے لیے سخت
صبر کی منزل، یہ داغ جوانی وہ کس طرح اٹھا لے، پیری میں سنبھلتی نہیں بھرپور جوانی، پیری میں سنبھلتی نہیں بھرپور جوانی، شبیر کو اے موت ذرا ہاتھ بڑھا لے، اکبر کے کلیجے سے کوئی برچھی نکالے، 18 برس والے کو اللہ سنبھالے۔ بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات۔ سورۃ مبارکۃ الفاتحہ۔
صلوا علی محمد و آل محمد۔ کہتی تھی ماں خوبری میت سے لپٹ کر، ہے علی اکبر، ارمان تھا پہناؤں گی پوشاک شاہانی، افسوس کے راس آئے نہ تجھ کو یہ جوانی، کیسا تھا مقدر، ہے علی اکبر، 18 برس پال کے پروان چڑھایا، وہ گیسو والا ہے میرا خون میں نہایا، یہ کیا ہوا دل بر، ہے علی اکبر، ماں تیری جدائی میں بلا کیسے جیے گی، مر جائے گی صغرا جو خبر تیری سنے گی، اب کیا کرو دل بر، ہے علی اکبر۔ پہلے تو ایک آواز پہ اٹھ جاتے تھے بیٹا، اب اتنی صداؤں پہ نہ پہلو نہیں بدلا، کیا ہو گیا دل بر، ہے علی اکبر۔ تم ہجر کیا لے لے کے جو دم توڑ رہے ہو، موما سے ہمیشہ کے لیے موڑ رہے ہو، کیوں روٹھے ہو دل بر، ہے علی اکبر۔ جب کوئی جوالاشا نظر آتی ہے محشر، ایک یاد سوئے کر بو بلا جاتی ہے محشر، دل روتا ہے کہہ کر، ہے علی اکبر۔ آئے جو ہمیں لوٹنے خیمے میں ستم گر، ماں دے گی صدائے علی اکبر، علی اکبر، چھن جائے گی چادر، ہے علی اکبر۔ کہتی تھی یہ ماں خونبری میت سے لپٹ کر، ہے علی اکبر، ہے علی اکبر۔ صلوا علی محمد و آل محمد۔
Dr. Syed, Shabbir, Kirmani, Dr. Dungersi, Noah Khan, Abbas, MK, respected elders, brothers and sisters in Iman, Adamallah ajurna wa ajurakum bi Musabina bil Hussein. Tonight's niyaz has been sponsored by Zuhair Ladak family for the Ithal Ithwab of Marhumin of Ladak, Somji, Molidina and Sharif families and all Marhumin, as well as being partially sponsored by Abbas and Hussein Bakri for the Ithal Ithwab of Sayyid Muhammad Ali Bakri, Marhuma Razia Ali Bakri, Marhum Ghulam Hussein Banatwala, Marhuma Zainab B. Banatwala, Marhum Zainul Abidin Naki, Marhuma Zaina An Razia Khanali, as well as being partially sponsored by Kaniz Rizvi for the Ithal Ithwab of Marhum Syed Imdad Hussein, Marhum Khawar Imdad Hussein, as well as being partially sponsored by family members for the Ithal Ithwab of Marhum Saleh Isa, Marhuma Sakina Ba Isa, Marhum Muhammad Fazal Dinani, Marhumin of Saleh Isa, Khalfan, Dinani, Jafar, Manekia and Asharia families, as well as by Tabassum Musliwala for the Ithal Ithwab of all Marhumins of Musliwala and Lokhandwala family. And the outside Mokib has been sponsored by Bandi Khuda for the Ithal Ithwab of Marhum Sayyid Muhammad Ali Rizvi, Marhuma Shamim Akhtar, Marhum Iftikhar Fatima, Marhum Sayyid Sadiq Hussein Rizvi, Marhum Sayyid Arastu Hussein Rizvi, Marhuma Zahra Begum, Marhum Sayyid Muhammad Tahir Musvi, Marhuma Kaniz Abbas. And tonight's Majlis was sponsored by Irtaza Hussein family for the Ithal Ithwab of Marhum Sayyid Sadiq Hussein Rizvi, Marhuma Kaniz Abbas, Marhum Sayyid Muhammad Tahir Musvi, Marhuma Zahra Begum, Marhum Sayyid Muhammad Ali Rizvi, Marhuma Shamim Akhtar, Marhum Iftikhar Fatima. And tonight's children's niyaz has been sponsored by Azim Butwala for the Ithal Ithwab of Marhum Bahdur Wali Bhai Butwala, Marhum Ramzan Ali Bahadur Ali Devjani, Marhum Maulana Sayyid Riyazuddin Haidar Jafri, Marhum Diwadi Bhai and Wali Bhai Butwala, Marhuma Nurbanu Bhai Sutaria, Marhum Ghulam Ali Sutaria, Marhum Sayyid Mehdi Jafri, Marhum Shaban Ali Ghulam Ali Sutaria, Marhuma Sakina Shaban Ali Sutaria, Marhuma Sayra Ghulam Ali Sutaria, Marhum Amir Ali Ghulam Ali Sutaria, Marhum Feroz Shaban Ali Sutaria, and all Marhumin of Butwala, Devjani, Jafri and Sutaria families. Al-Fatiha. Tomorrow, Monday, we will have our ladies only program starting at 11 a.m. as well as our 10th night of Muharram starting at 7:30 with Niyaz, and our children's program 7:30 to 8 p.m. Muharram workshop for children with special needs ages 4 to 10, and our children's Muharram workshop from 8 to 8:45 p.m. for ages 3 to 8. Mu'mineen, as of this evening, we have raised a total of $110,000. And as you all know, our target for the month of Muharram and Safar is 250. We are requesting all Mu'mineen to donate generously. We have multiple funds such as the Niyaz Fund, the Majlis Fund, the Alim Fund, and the General Muharram Fund. We are also requesting members and non-members of our center to donate $400 per family to the Muharram Fund. To date, we have had less than 95 families who have donated. Mu'mineen, we still have another 100 families who have not made their family contribution of $400. We also have non-members who haven't donated. Mu'mineen, if you haven't donated, please donate it, as these are the last nights of Muharram. Please do so as soon as possible. You can donate by visiting our website, sijni.org/donate. You can scan the QR code that you can see on the screen. You can visit the treasurer's desk in the back for more information, as well as you can purchase our Islamic calendar for $10. Mu'mineen, when it comes to the parking which has been made available at Patel Brothers, it's exclusive only to the rear side of their parking lot, as parking in the back is a favor to us. We cannot park in the front of Patel Brothers as it's interrupting their business. We're also asking you to be mindful of our neighbors' driveways and hydrants. If you see a cone outside next to a curb, it means you are not allowed to park there, so please do not remove the cones. You are not allowed to move the cones outside. You'll also notice that police are on patrol outside. We thank them for making their presence at our request, and Mu'mineen, they will be issuing summons if you have not parked your car legally. Please watch out for the hydrants, the driveways, and watch out for the cones. Most importantly, please do not park at Cozy Shack. We are not allowed to park there. If your car is parked there and we find out that one of our members is parked there, you will be towed. Lastly, let us recite 5 times Amma Yujib for all those who are sick here and around the world. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mustarriza dha'u wa yakshifu su. 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 Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali. Please recite aloud salawat as we call up Syed Kirmani. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali.
لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا حسين محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فوض أمري إلى الله إن الله بصير بالعباد. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ونعم المولى ونعم النصير. والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على الرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. وقل رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتاب الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أم حسبت أن أصحاب الكهف والرقيم كانوا من آياتنا عجبا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. My respected scholars, elders, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman here in New York or across the globe, wherever you may be hearing my voice, Salamun alaykum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Question: where do we go from here? We're getting towards the conclusion and the culmination of our conversation on the future of our society, learning from the Karbala movement, humanity, struggle, and excellence. And one of the themes that we've been discussing is we need to encourage excellence within our community. That is individual excellence and then community excellence, and then from there build up as a society so that we actually encourage a new generation that is inspired based on the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt. So to this end, how do we do that? How do we learn from the Quran? How do we learn from the Prophet? How do we learn from the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt on how to implement excellence within ourselves and how to inculcate that in society with a broader vision that inspires? To that end, I'm going to be very frank here. And one of the things that I'll tell you from the beginning is that this is New York. And because this is New York, I would argue that you need to 10x or 100x your thinking about the future of our society and community. That is, you and I may say that we're, things seem fine, like the doors are opening and closing on the right times, lights are on, stuff of that nature. But what you may not be seeing is the opportunity cost which is missed. Today, they talked about the time value of money, right? So they say that, okay, why should someone pay back interest or something on money? Well, they say one aspect of it is, any MBA class or intro business class will tell you that in our society today, there's a time value associated with money. So not only should you pay the person for the real inflationary cost of the money that's been lost, you should also pay them for the money that they could have made from the dollar they gave you, right? So they could have invested and returned something on it. Similarly, when it comes to our communities and our jamaats, there are stages and evolutions, the way that I mentioned in the beginning of our series, that what happened in the beginning for those who came in the 60s and the 70s, this is a different era. This is a different time. And in order to understand that, we have different needs of this era and this time. Because of that, I needed you and I to discuss this concept to understand from the Quran. How is it that there have been different approaches to how deen and religion is implemented in our lives? Number one. Number two, what are examples from the lives of the Ahlul Bayt that show us this implemented in a different way, in a more spectacular way, perhaps? And the third element is, what is it that we should do? What can we do as a community, as a society that uplifts and inspires people, that they don't feel like, you know what, I have to go to the Imam Barga today, I have to go to the center today. It's a check the box type of thing, but they say, no, this makes my life better, this makes my world better, this has such meaning that if I don't, I lose something in my life. How do we do that, and how do we inspire that? And finally, how is it that the stars on the plains of Karbala teach and inspire us, the likes of Ali Akbar, to live beyond this physical life that we have in this dunya? How can we live and become immortal? By following certain principles and virtues that are timeless. This is our agenda for tonight. Wherever you are, here in New York or across the globe, from the bottom of your heart, send a salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. At the first level, there's something called an ecosystem. I remember in grad school, I was taking a class that had a fancy name. It was called Innovation in Engineering Design. And it was a class basically to teach engineers how to think creatively. And they were saying that, the way that engineers think and the creative process may be very different. Because what ends up happening is we conflate what is practical and feasible with what is ingenuitive or what is new and what is different. So for example, one of the tasks that our professor told us, go to a place where you can relax, like the beach or something, and draw 20 sketches. And in those sketches, make sure that you're not thinking about whether this is possible or not. That will come later. Because what ends up happening is you may have a wonderful idea, you may have a beautiful idea, but what ends up happening is because you are thinking about, is this practical or feasible, you may scrap it and throw it out. Similarly, Allah has given us this creative faculty. Google, it gives about 15 to 20% of time to its employees, and it says, do what you want with this. And what they found is when they give people this time, what ends up happening is they come up with projects, which now you and I use, which they never had part of their mission and their plan. But because of their freedom, they do it. Now, I'm telling you this because I'm in a situation where I don't have freedom. Why don't I have freedom? Because we're all strapped for time. I remember I was lecturing in Chicago, and I lectured there one time, and I recited 45 minutes. And they said, Syed, this is an amazing lecture, fantastic, only one problem. I said, what's the problem? He says, too short. I said, what? 45? So I ended up reciting hour 15, and then hour 30 minutes. Different crowd. I'm not going to ask you New Yorkers to do that. But the point that I'm getting at is you have to know the lay of the land in which you and I exist. And I'm in a situation where I got different crowds, different expectations, different views, and I got somebody with their trigger finger on the light, I got someone with their trigger finger on this, and I'm trying to keep all of your attention while getting the points across. Having said that, similarly in our communities and our jamaats, if you look at this, if somebody walks into the center, they'll look at this place and they'll say, wow, I feel like I'm back in Zanzibar, this is amazing. But you also need to look at it from other lenses and eyes. By the way, I have nothing against Zanzibar. I love Zanzibar. I wish I could go to Zanzibar. I hear there's a lot of investment going on there. But what I'm saying is something different. But what if a child walked in here? That ecosystem was different. Come with me on a journey. So my name is Shabbir Kirmani, right? Kirmani. Kirmani is a place in Iran. If I had $1 for every time I was called Shabbir Kirmali, I would be very rich right now. But I'm not. So Kirman is a place in Iran, right? My ancestors moved from Iran. They moved to India. And from India, eventually, my grandfather came here to study in '46 before the partition, and then eventually he went back to what became Pakistan. Yes, I'm related to the cricketer Kirmani, for those of you who've been asking. And eventually, our family moved here. I was born in DC. My ancestors, and I'm Syed, right, as you know. So no hidden things here, right? So I grew up in an environment where up to my grandfather's generation, people spoke Farsi at home. If you know even the history of India, the judicial language for a long time was Farsi because the Mughals and others used that as their legislative language. But my ancestors didn't speak Urdu or maybe even English. They spoke Farsi, and before that they spoke Arabic. And the azadari that I got was in Urdu, for example, and now we're moving to English. In the same way that it's very difficult for some people to fathom the azadari moving from one language to another, you can imagine that when people were moving from the Arab belt to the Persian belt, they too must have been feeling this pain that I'm losing my culture. But it happened. Similarly, going from the Persian belt to India, people must have been feeling that I'm losing something, but they still did it. And one of the things that you need to know is the history of Tashayyu, the history of Shi'ism, where the Ahlul Bayt and their followers, they faced heavy persecution, which is still going on in this world. You'll find in places like Afghanistan, in places like, although it's not on the mainstream news, it's still happening, right? In Kuwait, Para, Chinar, Afghanistan, and other parts of the world, followers of the Ahlul Bayt are still being, they're being targeted and killed year after year. And the point that I'm getting at here for you and I is to understand that despite all of those difficulties, there was a time in the history of Shi'ism that people had to pack up everything and just leave. As an example, in Turkey, 400 years ago, there was a time in one day, they gave a fatwa to round up all the Shi'as. 30,000 of them they beheaded and 40,000 they imprisoned in one day. And the idea was that there's such a power within the movement of Karbala and Imam Hussein that it makes rulership afraid. So what am I saying though? Your ancestors, my ancestors, were willing to sacrifice their culture, their language for the protection of the religion. And we may find ourselves in a similar situation. I'm not saying to give up biryani. I love biryani too, believe me. But what I am saying is we need to give a safe space for another generation to come to the forefront and exhibit their talents with respect to what Islam is all about. And this is where I'm saying inspire to excellence. In our communities, we talk about, becoming doctors and lawyers and engineers. And when I went to India, I asked people, why is that? Well, that was remnants of the 20th and the 21st century. Believe me, when I go to Silicon Valley and I talk to my engineering friends in Silicon Valley, they're saying that the people in healthcare are the ones who are going to get hit the hardest. They have no idea the tsunami that's coming with AI in the area in particular of healthcare. That doesn't mean we won't need any more doctors, but the whole nature of doctors is going to be completely revamped, and the volume of how many we need perhaps will be revamped. And by the way, this has happened throughout times. So why am I saying this? The world that we're seeing is changing in front of our eyes. So, what does that mean for you and I? Pursue excellence, but the actual implementation of this excellence may be different. There's this guy, Spain has this young soccer player, right? You're watching the match? Soccer, Spain, England? So, one of these guys, this young guy, what's his name? 17-year-old kid? Yeah, very good. So, Muslim background, right? Very good. So, I grew up playing soccer. I loved it. It's phenomenal, right? And so, I was in the UK, and sports has this ability to transform. So when I was in the UK, there's a player, what's his name? Salah? Mo Salah. So people who may have been bigoted and people who may have been discriminatory and racist just a few years ago, when it came to Liverpool and Mo Salah scoring goals, they ended up saying Mo Salah, gift from Allah. And so the idea of sports is something that can transcend. And so what I'm telling you and I is to see that we should encourage our next generation to go into vast areas that may be different. That may include sports, that may include media, that may include entrepreneurship, that may include a whole slew of different areas. But understand your why. I'll give you an example. I was watching a documentary. I was on a flight to LA. When you go from Florida to Los Angeles, you got some time to watch a couple of documentaries. And it was on golf, believe it or not, right? It was a documentary on Tiger Woods. You heard of Tiger Woods? Yeah. So it was talking about his dad and what was the vision and the mission that his dad had in terms of why he used to spend so much time with his son at the age of 2, learning and practicing his swings and all of these things. And he said he had a bigger vision. Because as you know, golf historically and even somewhat to this day it's been a very segregated sport, right? It's been something that, often elites, whites were the ones who, in fact, many country clubs, even Augusta, up until the last couple of decades or few decades, you couldn't get a membership there if you were a person of color. I say this because this is important. I remember my grandfather used to tell me when he came to America in '46, he landed in New York and he took the Greyhound from here to Ithaca, and he would stop at the station on the break. The African American community would come to him and say, one or two people would say, "Can you help get us a sandwich?" And this was a rude awakening for a young person who's coming from India to what America was supposed to be, the capital of the world. And he said, "Why is that?" And he said, "Look at that sign." And the sign said, "No dogs or blacks allowed." And so the reality of the matter is, keeping this context in mind, when you keep that coming back to Tiger Woods, his vision was that he believed his son is the one who's going to unite the world. He's going to bring together the community. So the vision was way beyond the sport, so to speak. By the way, I often say, if you want to learn Islam, you can learn it through golf. Sabr, tahammul, patience, and you can't blame anybody. Like other sports, you can blame somebody, but in golf, you got to look in the mirror and you got to be really honest with yourself. And so the idea is, it's a very good analogy for spirituality. But why do I say that today? I say that because we need to think bigger, we need to think broader, and we need to say, how can I see each next generation individual, or anybody for that matter, in the community, and how can I maximize their potential that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them? Because there may be certain people who have individual resources, and they're able to maximize it for their children. But in Islam, the vision that I should have, and that's how the Ahlul Bayt operated, not my words. Look at the words of Amir al-Mu'mineen when he writes his letter to Malik. Look at the words of Amir al-Mu'mineen when he writes his letter to his other governors. And one of the things that the Ahlul Bayt constantly focused on was making sure that you look after the rights of the most marginalized members of the community, the people who there's nobody to look after them. And the principle here is, if you look after them, and you look after their rights, then the rest will take care of itself. Because everyone is above that. Everyone has more resources at least than that. So now when it comes to our communities and our jamaats, what's our vision? What are we doing? Are we just serving Nassau County? Are we just serving this terrain? And are we just serving one element of it? If you find the Quran has a much broader vision. And I'm saying this, if this doesn't resonate in New York, it won't resonate anywhere, right? Because this needs to be a notion, an understanding of maximization of the ability. So allow me to explain. How does the Quran mention this? Who are some people who are given heaven and earth and gifts from Allah? If you read the Quran, Allah tells us about Talut, King Saul, right? Allah tells us that He gave him. Banu Israel said, if you read in the Quran, Banu Israel said, Ya Allah, or Musa, tell your Lord to give us a king to rule over us, who will give us victory. And so Allah tells the story of Talut and Jalut. Jalut is Goliath. Goliath is also mentioned in the Quran. So then Allah appoints him. When Allah appoints him, the people of Banu Israel object. And they said, why have you appointed this guy as the king? Why is your Lord Musa appointed this individual as king? Sorry, by the way, this is earlier than the time of Musa. Banu Israel had 70 prophets, as you know, 70 just that they got rid of actually. But in that era and time, when this came forward, eventually what happens is that when Allah appoints him, they say he's not a winner and he's not a king according to us. Because their criteria, Banu Israel of king, was wealth, essentially, and prestige and honor. And Allah said, look, that's not my criteria. So Allah said, Zadatan bastatan fil ilmi wal jism. He is superior in knowledge and body. This is Allah's decree. So on that basis, that's why we follow, if nothing else, that's why we follow Amir al-Mu'mineen. If nothing else, he was superior on the basis of knowledge and body according to all Muslims. And so the principle here is this idea of what Allah's criteria is. 35, to be president of the United States, you need to be 35. I didn't know why until I actually went to Greece. If you've ever been to Athens, they call it the birth of democracy, right? And we have Capitol Hill because of the Capitol Hill that's there in Athens. Anyways, the notion of ancient philosophers was if you want to run society, you have to be studying up until the age of 35. And you have to study about everything. Biology, chemistry, physics, math, you go down the line. And until and unless you're aware of all of those different sciences and areas, you're not qualified to be leadership. That's what their view was. Why am I saying this? Now, coming back to this idea of what the Quran says, Allah says, I appointed him because he's superior in knowledge and body. Maybe courage, maybe might, whatever it is. Number one. So, he made a king. Allah made a king with Talut. Second example, Allah tells us of the likes of Dawood and Sulaiman, father and son. Dawood's given the kingdom, Sulaiman's given the kingdom. And I told you in the earlier lectures, we said, what was your dua, what's my dua? And the dua of the likes of Sulaiman was, Rabbi habli mulkan la yambaghi ahadan min ba'di. Ya Allah, give me a kingdom which no one after me will have. And so he's saying, like, and by the way, is he being materialistic? I'm answering that question that someone may ask is, how do I live in America? How do I live in New York without being materialistic? Or do I have to be materialistic? And the reality is, you can have nice things. There's no problem with it. The issue is, does it control you or do you control it? In the sense that, is that your end all and be all? Do you identify your value as a human being based on those externalities? Or are you here for a different purpose? You may see that something is truly beautiful art. That's fine. It may have an expensive price to it. No problem. But the reality is, are you judging your life and assessing? And that unfortunately is a huge problem in our broader society. We live in the broader society, so sometimes we succumb to it. Anyways, so Sulaiman didn't see it as an obstacle for his spirituality to be given a huge kingdom. And Allah gave it to him. And he's ruling over birds and animals and jinn and ins and everything. And yet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him that. So, we've got these three individuals so far. Talut, Dawood, Sulaiman. Eventually there's a person in the same chapter that I've been reciting, that Imam Hussein recited on this from the spear, Surah Al-Kahf. There's an individual by the name of Dhul Qarnayn. You heard this name? So Dhul Qarnayn is the one who goes east and west. He was a king. And so when he goes towards the west, eventually he meets a town and people, and Allah says, do with them as you find just. So Allah gives authority to people to act in their way. So Dhul Qarnayn says, I will deal with the good ones with goodness and the ones who are not good with justice. And so he establishes that. Then he goes towards the east and he meets another community and he deals with them. And eventually the situation of Gog and Magog and all of this happens. Yajuj and Majuj. And eventually he solves that because he has technology. Again, they said, you're the one who can solve our problem. In fact, they said, we'll give you whatever you want. Dhul Qarnayn, just solve this problem for us, which is Yajuj and Majuj. And he said, I don't need your money. I have enough. He says that I just need your manpower. I need your labor power to help me in establishing and doing this. And so he had the technology from that standpoint to solve that problem. So now this is another example. Another example in the Quran is Luqman. Now Luqman, in our traditions, in our riwayat, he's asked if he wanted to be a prophet. And the narrations say is that Luqman in his wisdom said to Allah through the angel that if I have a choice, then at that point in time, then I would not accept this. But if I have no choice, definitely I'll accept it. If Allah is saying you need to become a prophet, I'm accepting it. But if he's saying you have a choice, I'm not accepting it because the responsibility associated with him. And so he's highlighting that one needs to understand the responsibility that goes with power and authority. But Allah still gave him wisdom. And that wisdom is something with which he guided many people. So now that tells us another element, that power and wealth and all of these things in Allah's domain is not just based on the position of power and wealth. It could be based on your knowledge. It could be based on the wisdom that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you and I. The next example, we can go to a series of them, but the next example is Rasulullah himself. Now Rasulullah, when Edward Gibbon wrote about him in The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, he says, this Muhammad is very interesting. He says, why? Because he said he was Caesar without the legions of Caesar. And he was the Pope without the pretensions of the Pope. Meaning, he had all the power of Caesar and all the power of the Pope, but he didn't have all the pomp around it that was needed. He didn't have the muscle around it, but still, people followed Rasulullah. They followed this individual. And so, when he came to this, he shows us excellence in so many different domains and so many different areas. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali himself, you'll find that Amir al-Mu'mineen, 4 years, 7 months, he's ruling over the Muslim empire from Kufa. And now, these people, the point that I'm driving here at is, these people, these imams, these prophets, they were in the middle of the battleground of life. You and I, similarly, need to be at the center of that. So when it comes to issues of justice, fairness, equality, or whatever sphere that you are passionate about and you want to bring something in society, in the community, in terms of betterment, you should be championing that. And we should maybe have a space for that in our communities for people to build upon. I'll give you an example. Allow me to explain. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You know, I was just talking about sports and things of this nature, right? And the pursuit of excellence. There are some traditions which I often mention when I'm reciting Majlis on different Imams, in particular the fifth Imam. You know, the fifth Imam, he's in a very different, interesting circumstance. The fifth Imam, Imam al-Baqir, is an eyewitness to Karbala. As you know, he's a young child in Karbala, roughly 3 or 4 years of age. And then after that, he goes to a different era. He lives during the time of his father, and then he lays the foundation for the university, or the re-establishing of the University of Medina, and eventually his son, Imam al-Sadiq, picks up on that. So he can be thought of, what our scholars say is, you can think of Imam al-Baqir sort of as the bridge between the heart and mind of Shi'ism. The heart being Karbala, and the mind being Imam al-Sadiq in his era. They're all the heart and mind, but the principle being the eras that manifested those attributes during that time. Anyways, you know, the Imam solved the biggest economic challenge of the time, during his time. You know this? Currency minting. So there was a monopoly at that time on minting currency by the Byzantine Empire. The Romans had a monopoly on minting currency. And at that point in time, there was a situation where the Muslim community didn't know how to mint currency, but they also didn't want to deal with that. You know, this exists today, right? We still have the Federal Reserve, we still have the reserve currency of the US, and the reserve currency has such power that the US gives, swap lines to certain countries, Japan and others, right? And so those are elements that work together. So the same thing was going on at that time similarly. But the Muslims didn't have the knowledge, the wherewithal in terms of understanding how do we mint currency. And when they didn't, they came to the Imam and they said, you need to help us out with this. And the Imam said, I will help you solve this problem and show you how to mint currency. So the Imam solves one of the biggest currency financial problems of this time, number one. Number two, there's another moment of the life of the Imam that sometimes we don't share, or we share it in a time where not everyone's there, so let me share it here. There's a moment in time where Banu Umayyah had many techniques and tricks, and they were many times very shrewd politicians. So there's one moment in time where they wanted to, they couldn't outpace the knowledge of Imam al-Baqir, so they said, what can we do to try to, try to lower his status in the eyes of people? So, you know, typically Islam's vision is you rise, you make other people rise around you. One of the main things in Islam is when you do dua and you see someone do good, you pray that Allah increases them in their ability to do good, and you pray that Allah gives you some ability also to do good. So Allah does not want that. It's in Allah's book, it's not a zero-sum game. You know, we have zero-sum games in economics and game theory. One person wins, one person loses. That's not how Islam operates. Islam says, no, there's enough in the vastness of the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He can raise that individual, and there's plenty to go around. And this is something that's extremely important for us to understand in that domain. So now, in this context of understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you and I this ability to be able to expand our ability, there's a moment when Banu Umayyah is trying to downgrade Imam al-Baqir. So they invite him and they say, you know what, they hinged a plan. They said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to call the Imam of the Shias, we'll call Muhammad al-Baqir, and we want him to, we're going to spontaneously say that we have an archery competition here. And what does he know about archery? As you know, Rasulullah said, teach your children archery and swimming and horse riding, right? So they call on the Imam, and they had made all the arrangements, and they said, look, Yabna Rasulullah, we're spontaneously, look, they just have some bows and arrows here, and we'd love for you to indulge us and participate in this. And the Imam says, I think I'm okay, it's fine. You guys can carry on. No, and they said, no, we insist, please participate. We'd love for you to participate. Now their goal is to try to heckle the Imam, make fun of the Imam, and say, look, he's excuse my language, in our language, he's a nerd. He just studies books all day and he has no idea about this. And so the narrations say that they insisted and pushed up until the point that the Imam said, okay, very well. So they give him a bow and they give him an arrow. And so he takes the bow and the arrow, and He puts it together properly, and they're like, okay, he knows how to at least put it together properly. And so the Imam then takes aim for, the target. And at that point, they're all ready to make fun of the Imam, and when he takes aim for the target, he aims and he lets go of the arrow, and it pierces the bullseye. They're like, what? They're like thinking, they're talking to themselves, beginner's luck, perhaps. They said, Yabna Rasulullah, one more time. One more. He said, I think it's enough for today. He said, no, we insist. So they gave him another arrow. And they're watching again. And they're saying, there's no way this is going to happen. So the Imam takes aim, target, looks down the way, and he lets go of his arrow. It pierces the first arrow. Bullseye again. What's going on here? We thought they're all books and this and knowledge and Quran, and this is like our domain. We specialize in this area. What are they doing? What is he doing excelling in this? One more time. He said, I think it's enough. They said, no, we insist. I said, very well. Took a third arrow. Imam took aim, let go of the arrow, pierced the first two, bullseye third time in a row. At that point in time, they were spellbound. They didn't have anything to say. The Imam left the gathering. The principle that we learn here, though, is that what we call dunya and what we call akhirah things is not necessarily what the Ahlul Bayt looked at. Let me give you another moment during the same Imam's lifetime, the fifth Imam. Each Imam teaches us a lesson. There's a moment where a man comes to the fifth Imam and says, Yabna Rasulillah. He says in this riwayah that I wanted to advise Imam al-Baqir, whereas he advised me. He said, what happened? He said, I was walking by and I saw the Imam working in the field. And now he had gotten elderly at this point. And when he's working in the field, he had two servants to support him. He was elderly, and these two were supporting him to stand up and get up, and he was doing some agricultural work. And so at that point, this man says, I came to the grandson of the Prophet, I came to Imam al-Baqir, and I said, Yabna Rasulullah, if God takes your soul in this state, in this environment, what will you tell him? So he was implying that you're going after this dunya, you're going after this, Sometimes we think that, we see someone working really hard, or we're saying, oh, that person's not coming to Imam Barga or mosque. Maybe they're not very religious. Maybe not, we don't know. Anyways, the narration says the Imam was down and he was working on the field, and he looked up when he heard this, and he supported himself with the two servants who were there to help him. He looked at the man in the eye, and he said, if I meet my Lord in this state, I will have met him in a state of ibadah. I will have met him in a state of worship. What do you think worship is? Worship is just namaz, roza, hajj, zakat. You've compartmentalized deen. Sometimes we look at Allah in our limited lens, whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His religion's way beyond what we may fathom. So now, coming towards the conclusion of this conversation, excellence for our community and our society means what? That means that we need to also give space for people within our community to be able to express their excellence that they may have. So for example, and I'm being honest with you here, if I was having this conversation with my own son on what would I want them to get out of Karbala? What are the themes we talk about in Karbala and during the Ayyam? Justice, honesty, integrity, equality, things of this nature. And it's important for us to give a space for people to say, well, okay, maybe you have the resources to be able to get what you want in life, and many people here may have that as well, but not everyone has that. So maybe we have discussions during the first 10 nights of Muharram for other demographics within our community, right? For a business example, if you've read it, you should probably read a book called The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen. And in that book, he talks about, companies are faced with a dilemma. And this is one of the most famous books on Wall Street as well as in Silicon Valley, coast to coast. And the idea is, if you have a cash cow bringing money in your business today, you have a dilemma, and the dilemma is that cash cow will only last for a certain amount of time. It may not last forever. So you need to be able to think about the future as well. And what do? But if you stay focused away from the cash cow, you lose the ability to make the now, and you may not get to that future. So they talked about acquisitions and other things that you need to have a two-pronged approach at least to be thinking about the future. So in our communities, in our jamaats, maybe it's time where we don't have a one-size-fits-all program for everybody. Maybe we need a different program. Maybe we need one for a different generation, where, for example, they're looking at their society and they know that America, our country, has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. The most people are imprisoned in the world in America. And many of the reasons are frivolous. And maybe somebody wants to do a paper on that and present it and say, how can we reform that and change that? One model is New Zealand. In New Zealand, they have a system of restorative justice, which reduces repeat offenders. There's other examples in society. Economic injustice, you know. One of the things that's caused huge discrepancies in America is the economic discrepancy. Scandinavian countries such as Sweden and others, they may not have that. Now, by the way, there's many good aspects. This is very important to note. Sometimes people debate between communal and individual societies. Allah has a much more nuanced approach to this. We think that Islam is all communal. Not necessarily. If you read the Quran, Allah calls Ibrahim an ummah by himself, one person. Ibrahim by himself, in the eyes of God, was worth more than a whole bunch of people. So Islam has created a space of individuality. And one of the beautiful aspects of America is something that you realize when you leave America. I was in Australia and the UK. They have something there called tall poppy syndrome. You heard of tall poppy syndrome? Tall poppy syndrome is when one of these poppy trees gets taller than everyone else, they cut it down. And so everyone has this notion of fit in society and don't stick out so much, don't stand out. But those same countries ship their talent to America to maximize their talent. Similarly, in our communities, in our jamaats, there may be people who are exceptionally talented in some domain, in some space. And maybe we need to give them space to actualize their view. Another aspect, our sisters, our mothers, our aunts, and their views and their perspectives. I mentioned about the concept of leadership, and we're now finding out that, you know, there's different benefits in different types of leadership. If you read the Quran, and this was asked to Ayatollah Jawadi Amali that, you know, for example, why did Allah make all 124,000 prophets, all of them men? No women. You know, in Judaism, they say they have 7 prophetesses, female prophets, for example. You'll find that in other religions. But in Islam, it doesn't seem like. And so Ayatollah Jawadi Amali says that, you know, because he made them mothers, and that's equivalent. That's one perspective. But there's another one. If you read the Quran, you may find that women are not prophets, but they are the protectors of prophets, as per the Quran. Dalil, there's a mother who is in a situation where she has a prophet of God in her hands, and she releases this child into the river. And the Quran says, وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّ مُوسَىٰ أَنْ أَرْضَعِي. We inspired the mother of Musa to release her child into the river. But on the other side, there was another mother who was going to accept this child by the name of Asiya, the mother of, the adopted mother of Musa alayhi salam, the wife of Fir'aun, of all people. And you'll find this over again. Maryam alayhi salam, the mother of Jesus. And you'll find this over and over again, that they're protecting the prophets in different domains and different spaces. Do you need to go further than Karbala and say the Zainab to understand how Zainab protected the message of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam? So what does that mean? The courage, the ability, the capability is something that if we're not giving a safe space for that to be actualized, we're missing things. Allow me to explain something. Inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sometimes you have to travel. The Quran says, "Qul siru fil ard." Go and travel in the land. Travel could mean, go somewhere. It could be reading a book. It could be maybe in your own city, go to a different community in Jamaat. I'll give you an example. I was in Vancouver one day. I had gone for a conference. It was called the Mimbar Conference. It was a conference discussing the Mimbar and its evolution and things of that nature. Those are things that are there. Anyways, the discussion was ensuing of about mixed gatherings. Have you heard of this term? Now, refer to your marja on this, and if you want to take my neck, you can. I'll be here for a few more days. But the idea here is the discussion was ensuing. There were people from Iraq, Iraqi background, Lebanese, all scholars, and all sorts of backgrounds. And the question ensued about, can we have what's called what people perceived as a mixed gathering? Okay. And so one of the scholars there was from an Iraqi community. He was Iraqi himself, but he was lecturing in predominantly Lebanese community. And he said, what are they debating about? What's this topic about? He said, can we have mixed gatherings? What's a mixed gathering? Okay, men and women, one hall. So, okay. Will they have hijab? So yeah, hijab. And what else? They'll be on different sides, but same hall. Okay. And what's the debate? Is this allowed or not? Can we do this or not? He says, really? He said, if I told this in my own community that you wanted to separate and put men and women in a different hall, they'd kick me out of my own community. What is this all about? And so what I'm trying to get you to think out of hijab was so that people could interact in society, not so that people could not interact in society. People don't wear, you're not supposed to, in front of mahram and your husband or your, for example, your mahram people, you don't wear hijab, right? Many non-Muslims may think that, but in our society we're missing this point. And so the first thing that Islam said is, as the man, you're supposed to lower your gaze. Hijab is first for the men in terms of their thought. And this is what Syed Mutahari, as well as Dr. Shariati and many others talked about, is we have conflated the chadar, the physical scarf, with the concept of hijab. Now, I'm not telling you to open these things, but I've lectured in many communities, such as the Iranian community, Arab community, and many others, where there is one hall, there are men and women on either side. Sometimes it's auditorium, sometimes there's a line in the middle, or whatever it may be. But in these spaces, you'll find that people, many times in our communities, they already gravitate towards haya in that way. And by the way, again, I'm saying, refer to your marja, but understand that there's not always one monolithic view on certain things. Example, Sayyid Khomeini rahmatullahi alayhi, as you know, when the revolution happened in 79 in Iran, for up until 88, chess was outlawed. Chess, you know, the game shatranj, chess, it was haram, that you couldn't play. And then he overturned his own ruling. Sayyid Khomeini himself overturned his own ruling. And everyone was in hoopla. You know, when people are with you, they're with you. And then when people are against you, they're against you. So there's so many people who are supporting Sayyid Khomeini and saying, oh, great job, you outlawed chess. They're saying, what did you do? You overturned your own ruling and you made it acceptable again. He said, people more knowledgeable than me had this ruling. And he referenced scholars before him who said that if it's used as an intellectual sport, it's acceptable. Now, by the way, don't ask, I'm not telling you to follow. Refer to your marja on these things. But what I'm telling you is there are many views that are there that you may not be aware of and I may not be aware of. And just because we're not aware of them doesn't mean that it's not true. So now what I'm telling you is there's another generation who has access to AI, to technology, to Zoom, Skype, and others. And maybe they have the ability to research and talk to scholarship in Najaf and Qom and other parts of the world, Lebanon and Lucknow and other parts of the world. And maybe they want to understand something in a different way, in a different light. Maybe there should be this dialogue. I'm not saying there should be antagonism. What I am saying is there needs to be a space for people to express themselves and their views. One example is that there's hundreds of examples of injustices in societies that may exist. Example, you know, many people in our society, in America, we have like an all or nothing. You go to college, you become a business, become an entrepreneur, or else. But in Germany, they've implemented systems where people can either become apprentices as well. So they study, do apprenticeship, and that actually leads to a little bit more economic equality. So maybe someone says, why don't we implement that in American society? You know, and there's dozens of other examples. Don't get me started on food. Allah says in the Quran, وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ وَالطُّورِ سِينِينَ وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ, for example. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says different things about the fig and the pomegranate and all of these other things. I'll ask you, do we have calorie counts on our food on Niyaz? Do we ever put a disclaimer, risk of heart attack? Don't get me wrong, I love desi food. But if we're aspiring to excellence, which we should be setting a model not only for our own community, but for other communities to say, hey, these guys have a point. We should be eating good food. We should be eating pure food. We should be eating food that gives us robustness. One thing I loved in Vancouver was that they had this idea of, they compost and recycle and all of these things. In American society, we're behind the curve on some of these things. And if you go outside of America, they remodeled LaGuardia, and I think they're remodeling JFK now, right? They're expanding it. Because economists from America said, you can tell America's behind just by our airports. You go to Singapore, you go to Hong Kong, you go to Australia, their airports are 10 times better than American airports. And so what America used to be is not what America still is. It's not trailblazing anymore in a lot of ways. That hurts me as an American. I want my society to flourish. I want my society to be just, domestically and abroad. So political involvement for some may mean, oh, it's just overseas stuff. No, we should be concerned about local issues as well. And not only just for the Muslim community, the broader community. If there's food that's unnatural and not the best, and it's affecting not just my kids, but the broader society, I should be concerned about that. That's part of Islam. That I want there to be tahir food, I want there to be tayyib food, I want there to be pure food. I want that maximizes your ability. If you want to learn, there's a book called Brain Energy by Dr. Chris Palmer from Harvard, where he's talked about the impact of nutrition on not only our physical well-being, our mental well-being. And what I'm saying is we're finding these things out, but we were supposed to be followers of Bab-e Madinatul Ilm, right? Do we implement that in our communities? Like, that's the question that I'm asking myself. And believe me, I'm in the ship with you. I'm in the boat with you. I'm just as much as, part of it. And what I'm saying is, until we don't raise that vision and say, look, excellence is a total excellence in totality. From what I breathe to what I eat to every aspect. How do I improve my society and how do I improve my world? We may not have fully understood the essence of what Islam was looking for. Inshallah, we'll continue that in the future. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The plains of Karbala teach us about people who became immortal. Immortal on the basis of principle, on the basis of on the international and timeless principles of Zaman and Makan. We should have programs, we should have scholarships, we should have fellowships, we should have things in honor of these personalities of Karbala, in honor of Ali Akbar, in honor of Ali Asghar, in honor of the Shuhada of Karbala, that inspires people in their best. For example, Ali Akbar, according to narrations, he had a love for feeding people. He had a love for making sure that people were taken care of in that regard. So perhaps we can learn from that and implement it. Whether it's Ali Asghar or Ali Akbar or Qasim or Awn and Muhammad, there's much to learn from these personalities and their wisdom. And you'll find that although Ali Akbar gave his life at a very young age, he showed what it can be and how one can become immortal in just a few moments, based on standing on truth, based on standing on principle, based on standing on morality and the betterment of society, of justice, of freedom. The poet says, Husn ka आसमां है अकबर, हुस्न का आसमां है अकबर, खुद मुजस्सम अजान है अकबर, खुद मुजस्सम अजान है अकबर, और 14 सदियाँ गुजर गईं फिर भी, 14 सदियाँ गुजर गईं फिर भी, तू अभी तक जवान है अकबर, 14 सदियाँ गुजर गईं फिर भी, तू अभी तक जवान है अकबर. 1400 years have passed, but you're still young, Akbar. Everyone wants youth, everyone wants to be timeless, everyone wants to live forever. Who are these people who, although they are not breathing in the way we understand breathing, they're still alive? There's a moment in time during the times of the 6th Imam, they say a man came to the Imam and he said, Yabna Rasulullah, I have a question for you. He says, what's your question? He says, what is the greatest ornament of life? What is the greatest zina of life? He said, the greatest zina of life, the greatest ornament of life is if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you a child and you see that child grow up in front of your eyes. And when you see that child grow up in front of your eyes, you see them become baligh and go through the different stages, and eventually they hit 16, 17, 18, and eventually people see this young child of yours and they say, what a child. And by virtue of that they say, what a parent, what a father, what a mother, what a child. Then he asks another question. He says, Yabna Rasulillah, what is the greatest test of life? What is the greatest tragedy of life in this dunya? The Imam is attributed to have said, the greatest test and the greatest trial and the greatest adversity in life is if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the same child away from you in your life. Ajrukum ala Allah. On the 10th of Muharram, Ali Akbar, who's known as Shabbir Payambar, he is the replica of Rasulullah, that the Ahlul Bayt would say, whenever we wanted to do the ziyarah of Rasulullah after he passed, we would look towards Ali Akbar, that he looked like him in every way. There's a moment where they're going towards the plains of Karbala, and Imam Hussein has a dialogue with his son. And when he's having this dialogue, Ali Akbar says, my father, are we not on the truth? He said, yes, my son, certainly we are on the truth. Yes, we are certainly on the truth. He said, then what difference does it make if we fall on death or death falls on us? This is something his grandfather, Amir al-Mu'mineen, had said. What that means, God knows. And maybe we'll find out in a long time. But that wisdom or that ability, it was a different way of thinking. On the plains of Karbala on the 10th of Muharram, the narrations say that Ali Akbar comes to his father and he says, "My father, allow me the permission to go towards the battlefield." You know, every tragedy and sorrow on the plains of Karbala was very difficult for Abu Abdullah, for Sayyid al-Shuhada. But according to ulama and mufassiri and people who talk about the tragedy of Karbala and historians, they say it seems perhaps the tragedy of Ali Akbar is the one that hurt Abu Abdullah himself the most. And I'll show you and I'll tell you why in a moment. Ajrukum ala Allah. The narrations say that Ali Akbar came and eventually at first Imam Hussein says, "Ali Akbar, how can I let you go? You're the replica of Rasulullah." And at that point in time, eventually when the Imam says, "Very well," he says, "But first, Ali Akbar, you must first seek permission from your mother, from your aunts, from the loved ones from the family, from the women of the family." Ali Akbar goes and he goes into the tent. And when he goes into the tent, he goes to the women of the family. There are different narrations. According to this one, he may have gone to his mother Layla and said, "My mother, give me the permission to go towards the battlefield." At that point in time, Layla, how does a mother give her child the permission to go towards the battlefield? But they say Ali Akbar said, "My mother, on Yawmul Qiyamah, me or my father, what will we say to Sayyidah Zahra, to Fatimah al-Zahra? What will we say? That we held our loved ones more honorable and closer to our hearts than her own son, than the grandson of Rasulullah." The narrations say that the mother Layla, she eventually gave permission. Then he goes to Zainab salamullahi alayha. Now Zainab had raised Ali Akbar as if it was her own child. And it seemed that she would not let Ali Akbar go towards the battlefield. She had this love and compassion for Ali Akbar, perhaps even more than her own son Zawn and Muhammad. That this is the light of the eyes of my brother Hussein. How can I let Ali Akbar go towards the battlefield? But eventually, he was able to get permission from Zainab salamullahi alayha. Eventually, he goes, and the narrations say that Ali Akbar was trying to leave from the tents. And when he was trying to leave from the tents, it seemed that eventually every time he would try to leave, someone would pull him back. And they would say, "Ali Akbar, don't go. Ali Akbar, stay with us. Ali Akbar, don't go." At one time, it was one person, another person. Eventually, the historians say that there was a moment where Ali Akbar is about to leave when someone pulls him back into the tents. They said, "We don't know who it was, but where this person pulled Ali Akbar, it seemed it was below the knee. It seemed that it must have been a 4-year-old girl who was perhaps saying to her brother, don't go towards the battlefield. Whoever has gone since the morning, they have not come back." Ali Akbar is trying to leave the tents. Ali Akbar eventually gets the ability and the permission, and he finally exits the tents. And when he finally exits the tents, the narrations say a moment comes when Ali Akbar is with his father Abu Abdullah. He gives him his armor, he gives him his turban, he prepares Ali Akbar to get on to his horse, and eventually Imam al-Hussein helps Ali Akbar to get on to the horse, and he bids him farewell. Between father and son, Ali Akbar bids farewell, and he begins to proceed towards the battlefield. When he begins to proceed towards the battlefield, the narrations say that he heard footsteps behind him. When he heard footsteps behind him, Ali Akbar is wondering, and he turns back to look back. What does he see? He sees his father following the horse and following his son. He says, "My father, Abu Abdullah, you bid me farewell. You let me go. Why are you following me? Why are you following me towards the battlefield?" They say Imam Hussein said, "Akbar, if you had a son like you would know what's going through my heart. You would know what's happening to me." At that point, he bid him farewell once again. Ali Akbar goes. Imam Hussein raises his hands towards the heavens. He says, "Allahumma shhad ala ha'ula'il qawm." Oh Allah, bear witness over this nation, over these people. Why? Because I'm sending to them the one who khalqan وخلقا ومنطقا. In the way he walked, the way he talked, the way he carried himself, in every way he resembled your messenger Rasulullah. He resembled Muhammad Mustafa. Oh Allah, bear witness that he's going. Ajrukum ala Allah. The narrations say Ali Akbar, he went and he began to call out the raj'as, the introduction that they would do at the beginning of the battle, and he would say, Ana Ali ibn al-Husayn ibn Ali, nahnu wa baytullah awla bin Nabi. And he would say that I am Ali, the son of Hussein, the son of Ali. They said, this is the heart of Hussein, this is the heart of Hussein, this is Ali Akbar. They wanted to take revenge, they wanted to attack him. Ali Akbar fought, and Ali Akbar fought very courageously. But when the enemy understood, this is the lion of Hussein, this is the lion from the family of Hussein, they said, we will not be able to take him in one-on-one combat. We must surround him, we must ambush him, we must attack him from every side. The enemy began to surround Aliun al-Akbar. They began to strike him, they began to use whatever they had. Whoever had whatever they had, they struck Ali Akbar. The narrations say Ali Akbar began to sway on the horse. When he began to sway on the horse, eventually a moment came where he began to fall to the ground. All the other martyrs, they said, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. But they say that Ali Akbar was aware. Ali Akbar was aware that his father was very thirsty. He was aware of the difficulties of his father. So he didn't say this. Why did he know this? Because a moment ago, before this, there's a moment where Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Ali Akbar, from the battlefield, he comes back. When he comes back, he says, my father, have you seen me fight? Aba Abdullah says, I saw you fight, my son. You fought like Haydar Karrar. You fought like your grandfather. You fought like the heroes of this family. He says, my father, but a drop of water, if I had it, the thirst is killing me. Had I had one drop of water, I would show them whose son I am. I would show them what further ability I have. I would show them what I could do. The narrations say that Imam indicated to Ali Akbar how thirsty he himself was through his tongue. Eventually, he put a ring into the mouth of Ali Akbar, and he says, may your grandfather quench your thirst from Kawthar. May Allah never show any father the day where their child asks them for the bare necessity of life and they're not able to provide it. Ali Akbar just wanted water. He wasn't able to get that water. There was a moment where a mother Layla is in the tents, and at that point she was looking at the face of Aba Abdullah, and she was looking at the face to understand how her son Ali Akbar was doing. At that point, one moment she becomes worried when she sees Imam Hussein become worried. At that point, or seemingly worried, she says, how is our son doing? At that point, Imam says that, oh Layla, a mother's dua is accepted in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Pray for our son, pray for Ali Akbar. She calls out, Ya Radda Yusuf ila Yaqub. Oh, the one who united Yusuf and Yaqub, unite Ali Akbar with his mother. They say Ali Akbar came back, but what state did he come back in? The thirst was killing Ali Akbar. He wasn't able to handle it, but he was fighting courageously. Of course he handled it. He was from the household of Ali Muhammad, but the mother and the father could not give that drop of water. What was the circumstance? Ajrukum ala Allah. Azadaro do jumle sun lijiye. Shair ne is manzar ko rakam kiya कि माँ है और बाप है और बेटा है और कड़ियल जवान बेटा है और अली अकबर जैसा बेटा है, और फिर इस हालत में माँ बाप पानी भी मयस्सर नहीं कर सकते अपने नौजवान के लिए। شاعر نے کہا شدت پیاس سے اکبر نے پلٹ کر دیکھا، ماں نے خیموں کی تنابوں سے لپٹ کر دیکھا، کتنی مجبور تھی ساقی کوثر کی بہو، خالی مشکیزہ کئی بار الٹ کر دیکھا، کتنی مجبور تھی ساقی کوثر کی بہو، خالی مشکیزہ کئی بار الٹ کر دیکھا۔ عزادارو اجرکم اللہ، وہاں علی اکبر گھوڑے سے گرے، کہا یا بتا علیکم منی آخر السلام، بابا میرا آخری سلام ہو آپ پر۔ حسین کے دل پہ کیا گزری خدا ہی جانے۔ شاعر نے رقم کیا، یہ عالم کوئی بیان شاید نہ کر پائے، مگر حسین کے دل میں کیا گزر رہی ہوگی۔ انیس علی اللہ مقامہ نے کہا زبان حال حسین اور زبان حال علی اکبر، جب علی اکبر گرے حسین وہاں سے خیمے سے شیر کی طرح دوڑے۔ کیا کہا ہوگا حسین نے، کیا کہا ہوگا علی اکبر نے؟ انیس کہتے ہیں کہ حسین نے کہا ہوگا بیٹا پکارو پھر کہ بصارت میں فرق ہے، اے نور عین جسم کی طاقت میں فرق ہے، زخمی ہے قلب روح کی راحت میں فرق ہے، تم یہ نہ جانیو کہ محبت میں فرق ہے، زخم جگر ملا تمہیں گودی میں پال کے، کس کو دکھاؤ اپنا کلیجہ نکال کے، زخم جگر ملا تمہیں گودی میں پال کے، کس کو دکھاؤں اپنا کلیجہ نکال کے۔ اور علی اکبر کا جواب آیا، ناگاہ صدا یہ آئی کہ بابا ادھر ہوں میں، ناگاہ صدا یہ آئی کہ بابا ادھر ہوں میں، اے نخل باغ فاطمہ زیر شجر ہوں میں، خالق سے لو لگی ہے چراغ سحر ہوں میں، جلد آئیے کہ آپ کا پیارا پسر ہوں میں، زخم جگر کہیں نہ اجل کا بہانہ ہو، زخم جگر کہیں نہ اجل کا بہانہ ہو، دیدار دیکھ لیں تو مسافر روانہ ہو۔ یہ منظر تھا۔ امام حسین پہنچے علی اکبر کے پاس، شبیہ پیمبر، اشقیہ نے کیا حالت کی ہوئی تھی علی اکبر کی، علی اکبر لہو لہان تھے، سینے پہ ہاتھ رکھے ہوئے تھے۔ امام نے دیکھا، اے نور نظر، اے علی اکبر، انہوں نے تیرے ساتھ کیا کیا؟ امام نے جب دیکھا ایک منظر یہ آیا کہ علی اکبر زندگی اور موت کے درمیان ہے، اور جب یہ مرحلہ آیا علی اکبر کو دیکھ کے ان کے سینے میں برچی تھی، امام نے برچی دیکھی، علی اکبر بے حد تکلیف میں تھے، امام نے گویا نجف کا رخ کیا ہوگا اور برچی کھینچ کے وہ خون جاری ہوا۔ خدا کسی کو یہ منظر نہ دکھائے، علی اکبر اس جہان سے کوچ کر گئے، دنیا سے چلے گئے، مگر علماء کہتے ہیں کہ ایک عجیب منظر تھا جب علی اکبر کا لاشا پڑا تھا، حسین نے کچھ کیا جو شاید ہی کسی اور کے ساتھ کیا، حسین نے اپنا رخسار اقدس علی اکبر کے رخسار پہ رکھا اور 3 بار کہا، اے علی اکبر، اے علی اکبر، اے علی اکبر۔ خدا کسی باپ کو یہ منظر نہ دکھائے، شاید کچھ گرمی ہو جو محسوس کرنا چاہ رہے تھے، شاید کچھ آرزویں تھی جو حسین آخری لمحات میں علی اکبر کے ساتھ۔ پھر ایک مرحلہ یہ آیا، اے بیٹا، حسین نے کہا اے بیٹا، وعلی الدنیا بعدک العفا، اے بیٹا تیرے بعد اس دنیا پہ خاک ہو، جینے کا لطف لے گئے بیٹا. اجرکم علی اللہ. میں نے ختم کیا. یہ ایام ہے رونے کے لیے. مگر ایک آخری روایت کہتے ہیں کہ حرب میں اگر آپ آج بھی جائیں حلب میں ایک مرحلہ یہ آیا کہ جب بعد از کربلا شہداء کے سر نوکے سنا پر رکھے گئے تھے اور مائیں اور بیبیاں دیکھتی رہ گئیں. یہ ایک ایسا جگہ تھا جہاں پر اکثر و بہشت لوگ کرسچن تھے, نصرانی تھے, عیسائی تھے. ایک عیسائی خاتون ایک چہرے کو نوکے سنا پر دیکھ رہی تھی بعد از کربلا, اور جم کے دیکھ رہی تھی اور ایسے دیکھ رہی تھی جیسے کچھ سوچ رہی تھی. ایک ماں تھی جو کربلا سے آئی تھی, اس نے دیکھا کہ یہ عیسائی عورت نگاہ کر رہی ہے اس سر پہ اور بہت جم کے دیکھ رہی ہے. مائی کہا اے خاتون, اے بی بی, اس چہرے کو کیا دیکھ رہی ہے نوکے سنا پر؟ اس نے کہا کہ ہم جانتے بھی نہیں, یہ اجنبی ہیں, پہلی بار دیکھ رہے ہیں, مگر یہ سوچ رہی ہوں میں کہ یہ نوجوان ہماری نگاہوں میں اتنا خوبصورت ہے, وہ اپنی ماں کی نگاہوں میں کیا ہوگا. میں دعا کر رہی ہوں کہ اس کی ماں زندہ نہ ہو کہ یہ منظر دیکھے. لیلا کا دل ٹوٹا, کہا اے بی بی نہ کہو, یہ میرا بیٹا ہے, یہ میرا علی اکبر. ماتم حسین.
یہ میرا نور یہ میرا لخت جگر مشکل سے گھر پردہ اٹھا لو کوئی, کچھ نہ کرو کی لوکل اس کا ہے اب غیر حال کرنے کو پردہ اٹھا لو کوئی, کھایا ہے برچھی کا پھل سر پہ کھڑی ہے اجل جائے گا اب دم نکل پردہ اٹھا زخم جگر کاری ہے اس میں سے خون جاری ہے کوچ کی تیاری ہے پردہ اٹھا لو کوئی لاشے اکبر اٹھاؤ کس طرح یا خدا میں ضعیف ہوں اور اکبر ہے جوان موت کی ہنجکی سے کہہ دو ٹھہر جا ٹھہر جا دولہا اکبر کو بنا لے اس کی ماں یا الہی یہ جوان کا داغ ہے داغ ہے خاک میں ملتا ہے یہ ارمان میرا نوجوان 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 کربلا اکبر میرا ہے نوجوان کہاں بانو نیواویلا جوان بیٹا گیا مارا کہاں بانو جوان بیٹا ہرا لگایا ظلم کا نیزہ جوان بیٹا گیا مارا کہاں بانو کوئی کفنی منگا لاؤ گلے میں میرے پہناؤ رکھوں گی سوگ اکبر کا جوان بیٹا گیا مارا کہاں بانو غم اکبر میں روؤں گی منع کیوں کرتے ہو مجھ کو رکھوں گی جب تلک زندہ جوان بیٹا را کہاں بانو راصف ماتم بچھاؤں گی، غم اکبر میں روؤں گی، کئی دن کا میرا پیاسا جوان بیٹا گیا مارا کہاں بانو. را کہو لوگوں میں کہاں جاؤں، علی اکبر کو کہاں پاؤں، گیا رن میں میرا پیاسا جوان بیٹا، را کہاں بانوں. مارا نہ خواہش مجھ کو کھانے کی، نہ خواہش پانی پینے کی، نہیں مطلب رہوں زندہ جوان بیٹا، رائے کہاں بانوں.
کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مر، کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا کا، کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا، شیر الہی کا شیر نر پہ داخل ہوا، چلو میں پانی کو بہا کر گئے، کرتے ہیں
ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس
کا، کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو شیر الہی کا شیر نر پہ داخل ہوا، چلو میں پانی کو بہا کر گئے، کرتے
ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا،
کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا،
ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا،
کربلائے کربلائے کرب و بلا، کربلائے 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 ہاں، صبح عاشور کو اکبر نے دی اذان، لیلا پکاری بیٹا تیری آخری اذان،
کربلائے کرب و بلا، کربلائے کربلائے کرب و بلا،
کربلائے کربلائے ہاں، صبح عاشور کو اکبر نے دی اذان، لیلا پکاری بیٹا تیری آخری اذان،
کربلائے کربلائے کرب و بلا، کربلائے کربلائے کرب و بلا،
کربلائے کربل. زینب میری بہنا دکھیا میری بہنا،
میری بہنا دکھیا میری بہنا،
تم فاتحہ شربت
سے، تم فاتحہ شربت
بد سے، زینب میری بہنا دکھیا میری بہنا، تم فاتحہ شربت سے دلانا میری بہنا،
زینب میری بہنا دکھیا میری بہنا، زینب میری بہنا دکھیا میری بہنا، تم فاتحہ شربت سے، تم فاتحہ
شربت سے، گھر بعد میرے پانی میسر تمہیں ہووے، پہلے تم سکینہ کو پلانا میری بہنا، زینب میری بہنا دکھیا میری،
تم فاتحہ شربت سے، تم
مت سے مقتل کی طرف سے تمہیں لے جائیں گے عدلام، پیاری کو علمدانہ دکھانا میری بہنا.
جواب آزادارو جواب.
تم فاتح شربت سے
ماہ انور لیلا علی اکبر لیلا. جواب آزاد جواب. انور لیلا علی اکبر لیلا لیلا انور لیلا علی اکبر لیلا نور چشم لیلا ماہ انور لیلا
علی اکبر لیلا نور چشم لیلا ماہ انور
لیلا علی اکبر لیلا ارے لیلا تیری شادی رچاؤں تجھے دلہا بناؤں یہی امید لیلا علی اکبر لیلا نور چشم لیلا ماہ انور لیلا علی اکبر لیلا نور چشم لیلا ماہ انور لیلا میری گودی کا پالا تجھے نیزہ لگایا ماہ انور لیلا انور لیلا علی اکبر لیلا نور چشم لیلا ماہ انور لیلا تیری شادی رچاؤں تجھے دلہا بناؤں یہی امید لیلا علی اکبر لیلا نور چشم لیلا ماہ انور لیلا لا ماہ نور لیلا میری گودی کا پالا تجھے نیزہ لگایا ماہ انور لیلا علی اکبر لیلا نور چشم لیلا ماہ انور لیلا علی اکبر لیلا نور چشم لیلا ماہ انور لیلا بینا و حسینہ جسر جدا حسینہ بی اقربا حسینہ عیشیہ بزنسار مادر عزا و ماتا تے پیامبر زاو مادام اے زینب ناچار اے عابد بیمار اے سکینہ اے زار وماتام اے شیعہ بزنسار دارین عزا ومادام بینوا حسینہ سر جدا حسینہ بی اقربا حسینہ جواب آزادار الوداع الوداع زاو ماتام شیعہ بزنسار با زاو ماتام زینب ناچار اے عابد بیمار اے سکینہ اے زار اے شیعہ بزنسار جانب میدمبر و آرام بجاناس گفت لیلا جواب آزاد جواب بعد سغام ہے جوانا الوداع زادار الوداع جوانا جانب گفت لیلا بعد استغام اے جوانا نامرادان جانب میدمبر الوداع زادار الوداع بعد استغام بعد استغام ہے جوانان نان جان میں گفت زینب آئے برادر اے شفیع روز محشر جانب میدمبر و آرام بجاناز الوداع زادر الوداع جواب مرادان جوانان برے گفت لیلا بعد استغام اے جوانان نامرادان جانب میدمبر و آرام بجانا بعد استغام جوانان نامرادان جانب گفت زینب ہائے برادر اے شفیع روز محشر جانب میدمبر و آرام بجانا گفت لیلا اے جوانان نامرادان اے جوانان نامرادان جانی ناد علی علی یا علی علی بادشاہ جن و بشر یا علی ولی ہائے علی اکبر راہ علی اکبر راہ حسین شہید کربلا وویلا ویلا ان شب جناب فاطمہ وویلا وویلا اکبر نوجوان جی شد وویلا لا عباس علم درم چی شد وویلا لا عزو علی امامکم وویلا یا حسین یا حسین
یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین حیا علی خیر العمل حیا علی خیر عمل حیا علی خیر العمل حیا علی جیو خیر العمل حیا علی خیر عمل حیا علی خیر العمل حیا علی العمل یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین زخم دل کے دکھاؤں میں کیسے زخم دل کے دکھاؤں میں کیسے تیرا لاشا اٹھاؤں میں کیسے اکبر میرا سے والا اکبر اکبر سب مل کے آزادارو والا اکبر اکبر ہے والا اکبر اکبر میرا سے والا اکبر اکبر لاش اکبر پیشہ جب پہنچے دل کو ہاتھوں سے تھام کر بولے تیری فرقت نے علی اکبر آگ دل میں میرے لگا دی ہے، آگ دل کی بجھاؤں میں کیسے، تیرا لاشا اٹھاؤں میں کیسے، اکبر میرا سحر والا اکبر، اکبر میرا سحر والا اکبر، اکبر تو ہے کریل جوان بیٹا، باپ تیرا ضعیف ہے کتنا، نور آنکھوں کا ہو گیا رخصت، مجھ کو آتا نہیں نظر خیمہ، لے کے خیموں میں جاؤں میں کیسے، تیرا لاشا اٹھاؤں میں کیسے، اکبر میرا سحر والا اکبر، میرا سحر والا اکبر، اکبر اور بھائی بہنوں کا ہے عجب رشتہ، جس کا ثانی کہیں نہیں ملتا، رو کے صغرا نے یہ لکھا اکبر، ایک دکھیا کی لاج رکھ لینا، مر گیا تو بتاؤں میں کیسے، تیرا لاشا اٹھاؤں میں کیسے، اکبر والا اکبر، اکبر میرا سحر اکبر، اکبر اکبر، اکبر جس نے 18 سال پالا تھا، کیسے دیکھے گی وہ تیرا لاشا، تیری شادی کا تھا جسے ارماں، کیسے جھیلے گی وہ تیرا صدمہ، تیری ماں کو بتاؤں میں کیسے، تیرا لاشا اٹھاؤں میں کیسے، اکبر میرا سحر والا اکبر، اکبر جو ماتمی میرا سحر والا اکبر، اکبر اکبر، اکبر اے وقت اذان، اے وقت اذان، اے وقت اذان، سب مل کے ازادارو، اے وقت اذان، اے وقت علی اکبر اذان دے، اے وقت اذان، اے علی اکبر اذان دے، بولے سبب پہ سبتے پیمبر اذان دے، اے وقت اذان، اے وقت اذان، علی اکبر اذان دے، اے وقت اذان، ہے وقت، یہ آخری اذاں ہے سجدہ بھی آخری، یہ آخری اذاں ہے سجدہ بھی آخری، بولے پسر سے سبتے پیمبر اذان دے، اے وقت اذان جیو تے اذان ہے اذان، ٹھنڈک ملے رسول کے روزے پہ میرے لال، ٹھنڈک ملے رسول سے روزے پہ میرے لال، ایک آگ کی ہے سینے کے اندر اذان دے، اے وقت اذان جزاک اللہ ماتمی، اے وقت اذان، اے وقت اذان ہے، کہتی ہے یہ مدینے سے آتی ہوئی ہوا، کہتی ہے یہ مدینے سے آتی ہوئی ہوا، صغرا بھی منتظر ہے برادر اذان دے، اے وقت اذان، اے وقت اذان، وہ عابد بیمار تھا، وہ عابد بیمار تھا، وہ عابد ہے چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا، چلنے سے جو چار تھا، ہے چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا، چلنے سے جو تھا، اور شام کا بازار تھا، اور شام بازار تھا، اور مصطفیٰ کی بیٹیاں مولا حق امام یا حسین، مولا حق امام یا حسین، مولا حق امام یا حسین، یا حسین، شام غریب آ گئی، شام غریب شام غریب شام غریب، ہے عابد کو غیرت کھا گئی، عابد کو غیرت کھا گئی، ہے عابد کو غیرت کھا گئی، عابد کو کھا گئی، پہرے پہ زینب آ گئی، پہرے پہ زینب آ گئی، عباس اکبر کہاں مولا کے امام یا حسین، یا حسین، یا حسین، یا حسین، وہ اصغر بے شیر تھا، وہ سب پڑھے، بے شیر تھا، وہ اصغر بے شیر تھا، اور حرملہ کا تیر تھا، اور حرملہ کا تیر تھا، اور حرملہ کا تیر تھا، اور حرملہ تیر تھا، پیاسا گلا کیوں کر کٹا، پیاسا گلا کیوں کٹا، لرزی زمین اور آسمان، مولا حق امام یا حسین، مولا حق امام یا حسن، یا حسین، مولا حق امام حسن، یا حسین، یا حسین، یا حسین، یا حسین، یا حسین، رحم اللہ من قرأ سورة المبارکة الفاتحہ۔
السلام عليك يا رسول الله يا محمد بن عبد الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى يا أم المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني السلام الله أبدا ما بكيت وبكي الليل والنهار ولا جعل الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى أخيك العباس وأختك زينب وكلثوم وبنتك سكينة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان ورحمة الله وبركاته.
محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم قل لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل الساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوى وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.